Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our introduction to crowdfunding webinar. We will get fully started in just a moment, just allowing a few more people to come into the live room. Today, we're going to be looking at crowdfunding, what it is, and how you may be able to utilize crowdfunding in order to make your project or your idea happen. We'll look at our 3 steps to success as well. So we'll be looking at how to plan, create, and run a successful campaign. Within today's session, we will also be featuring one of our new exciting extra funding opportunities, which is a live match fund from the Cost of Living Resilience Fund. So we've got some great information about that one coming up too. Before we do get started, there's just a little bit of housekeeping to go through. I should make you aware that my wonderful colleague Charlie is in the chat box, so please do use that chat box. You should be able to find it within your toolbar on your screen. To introduce yourselves, let us know who you are, what organisation you might represent, or your project idea. Charlie will be in that chat box sharing any of our resource links for you to use and also answering any of your questions, although we have also allowed time for a Q&A at the end, so we can answer some of those questions towards the end of the session as well. Charlie's just introducing herself for you all in the chat box. We're doing things slightly differently today, so do bear with us. We've had a bit of a technical issue with internet connection, so Charlie will also be running the slides, and some of the slides may well look a little bit interesting as they've been uploaded to Zoom, which is not how we normally do it. So do bear with us. They may well look a little bit interesting, some of these slides. As I mentioned, make use of that chat box. It's great to see some of you typing there already. That's brilliant. Welcome, everybody. Hi, Andreas. Hi, we've also got Dave there. Wonderful to see you. Duncan, Kate, hi. How are you doing? This is a live session and we are actually recording this session. Don't worry, you're not going to be featured in the recording. It just means that we can create a replay to send out to people after today's session. And then you can obviously use that within your organizations if you so wish. We will send that out as part of an email, which will have all of the links to the resources that we discuss as well. If you have any issues with your internet connection, then do feel free to rejoin the webinar. You should be able to follow the link in the confirmation email to rejoin the room. Now, you should be able to see the full slide as well. If for some reason the view of your Zoom has changed, then do just click the view option at the right corner of your screen and select side-by-side speaker view, which will enable you to see the whole slide and myself as well. Okay, as I mentioned, nobody can actually see you in this session, so do feel free to sit there, have a cup of tea, absorb this content. We appreciate it's probably most people's lunch breaks, so if you need to grab a bit of lunch, sit back and enjoy the content, then please do. Okay, we've got a really busy session to get through, so let's get started. Thank you, Charlie. So for some of you here today, crowdfunding might be a completely new concept. You might not have any knowledge about Crowdfunder UK or even the principles behind crowdfunding itself. So the idea of crowdfunding is to reach out to your network and your community in order to generate donations to make your idea or your project happen. It's a really collaborative approach to fundraising. We call your community or your network your crowd. The idea is that you go out and you create networks within your immediate crowd and then hopefully beyond that as well into your wider community, which can really help to bring awareness around your organization or your project idea. Now, Crowdfunder UK has been around for about 10 years now, and it was set up to help tackle society's challenges by making ideas happen, to put that power into the community's hands in order to raise that all-important money in order to get their ideas off the ground and create some really long-lasting impact within their communities, whether that's within their business community or in their actual communities themselves, when they're working with project delivery that's going to enhance and benefit those around them. Next slide, please, Charlie. Okay, here are just some numbers for you to mull over. So in those 10 years, Crowdfunder UK has seen projects that have used the platform raise more than £316 million to make their ideas happen. So a huge amount of money has been raised over the last 10 years. We generally see around 300 projects adding to the platform a day. Now, those projects can be anything from all walks of life. It could be a personal fundraiser, it could be a charity or a community organisation, it could even be a business startup, for example, or even a political campaign. We see lots of different types of things get crowdfunded for. One thing that we always recommend is to actually have a look at the website. You can explore projects. You can search via location or keywords that have something to do with a project idea, and that will bring up everybody that has crowdfunded for that project idea to date. I would always recommend filtering that to successful projects, so you can get a really good idea of how people have achieved the targets, how they've managed to bring in those donations, and it might help inspire you to put your page together and to know what's involved when it comes to a successful campaign. I mentioned about the exciting live match fund that we're going to talk about a little bit later on, but Crowdfunder works with both national and regional partners to help to distribute what we call extra funding, which is essentially match funding through a crowdfunding campaign. And over the last 10 years, we have seen more than £29 million worth of this extra funding be distributed to eligible projects through our crowdfunding platform. Okay, so let's break it down then into how it works in its simplest forms. So you would go along to crowdfunder.co.uk, you would create your unique login. So this is all done for free, so you can set up a free account with us. You'd create a username and a login, and then you would go on to create a unique page. Within that page, or project page as we call it, you'll be asked lots of different bits of information about your organisation or you as an individual or a charity, such as whereabouts you are in the country, some of your financial details as well, so that we have a bank account associated with you to be able to obviously pay that money out to you at the end of your successful campaign. One of the key things that you'll be asked to do is to tell your story and explain your idea. So this is where you can get really creative putting your campaign page together. We'll go into a bit more detail on how to do that successfully. You then go on and set your target and how long you would like to run your campaign for. The next step would be to add any rewards that you might like to add onto your campaign. So a reward is a benefit of some kind in return for a financial contribution, and we'll touch on that in more detail. It's a really great way to incentivize people's giving. You would also check to see if you have been matched with any of our extra funding partners, and through your page itself, in the admin section, you can actually apply for any of those extra funds. We always recommend doing this before you go live or launch your campaign page. It's a brilliant thing to do so that you have that in your armory, so that when you go live with your campaign, you can start shouting about the wonderful match fund that you have and how exciting this opportunity is going to be. And it gives you an idea of the milestones that you might need to reach in order to secure that extra funding. Finally, you would then go on to launch your project. So you would set your project live on the Crowdfunder UK website. You are in complete control of when you decide to go live. You can schedule that date, or you can just hit the Go Live Now button. What we always recommend that you do, however, is when you know the date that you would like to go live, make sure that you've already had some conversations with your close network to make sure you've got a group of people that are ready, waiting in the wings to put donations onto your page as soon as it goes live. That way, you're going to start your campaign with a bang. It's going to keep that momentum going when you start to then promote your campaign to a slightly wider audience. I mentioned there about rewards. So Crowdfunder UK is the UK's leading rewards-based crowdfunding platform. Rewards, as I mentioned, are a benefit of some kind in return for a financial contribution. I would like to stress that that doesn't mean things like equity or shares in a business. There are other platforms that offer you that option. However, Crowdfunder UK, you are unable to offer things like shares or equity. What we're looking at really is things that are connected with your organization or your cause. So that might be a product or a service, and then things that you've actually gone out and spoken to your network about providing. So think about a traditional fundraiser, you may well go round to the local business community, the local high street, and say, do you have any vouchers or gift cards or products or services that I could list by way of a reward? And you would put a price for each of these different items. So you can see here that Burlish Bike Park, they were raising money to actually develop a bike park locally to them. They had things like 25% off a photo shoot or a garden centre voucher, mountain bike coaching. That's obviously really key to them as an organisation, but they've gone and done their work and they've gone out to the local community as well. The key behind rewards is having things that will appeal not only to your core audience and your core crowd, those are people that already have a connection with you, which is where things like the mountain bike coaching comes in for Burlish Bike Park, but also things that will have an appeal to that wider audience. So that is going to be those products and services from the local community that may well just have that resonance with people that aren't necessarily a keen mountain biker, but actually do shop at the local garden centre or would really like to take up the option of that photo shoot. So think creatively about interesting rewards that have a wide appeal, and that can really help to not only incentivize people's giving because they would like to give a bit more in order to get that reward, but it can do a really wonderful job at saying a massive thank you to people for actually donating to your campaign page. So it's a bit of a win-win. It helps with promotion as well. You can shout about those wonderful businesses that have helped support you by way of a reward, and hopefully you will ask them also to promote the fact that they have offered their reward to the crowdfunder, and that's going to help to tap into their networks, and you're going to grow your crowd nice and organically that way. Next slide, please, Charlie. Okay, so these are a few benefits of crowdfunding that sometimes kind of fall underneath the radar when people are starting to think about running a crowdfunding campaign. Of course, the primary reason for crowdfunding is going to be to raise the funds that you need in order to make that idea happen. However, along with that comes some really wonderful additional benefits, which are really going to help to boost your campaign overall and hopefully give you some wonderful benefits, which can prove to be quite long term. So first of all, you're going to build validation in what you're doing. So it can help you to build confidence in your own idea. The more you're talking about it and the more you're getting feedback from other people is going to help you to develop that idea and really become confident and solid in the idea of what you're doing. It's also going to help your crowd to build confidence around what you're doing too. It's a very low risk way of testing the water to see if there really is an appetite for what you're hoping to bring to the community or bring to market. The reason I say it's low risk is because, you know, you can set up a crowdfunding campaign, you can run a crowdfunding campaign at no financial risk to yourself. You don't need to put in the money to do any research and development or to pay any money up front. There are some fees associated with crowdfunding, and you can find out what that looks like for you using our fees table. However, when it comes to fees, there's nothing that's taken from your crowdfunding campaign by way of fees unless you are successful. So it can be a really low risk way of seeing if there is an appetite out there for what you're doing. You will build awareness around your idea, you'll create a buzz around who you are, your organisation, or you as an individual, and you may well get noticed by that wider audience. And we give you all of the resources to help you to tap into that wider audience. It could be a really great way to build up a customer base or a base of service users, and also get that wider community knowing what you're doing, maybe the local authorities or funders going forward. You know, once you've got your crowdfunding campaign up and running, you can also refer back to it, and it can be a great way to unlock future funding, future bids, for example. Now, everybody that does contribute to your crowdfunder will by nature become an advocate for you as an organisation and what you're doing. So they will go on to talk to their friends and their families. They will hopefully share your crowdfunding campaign with their networks too. We here at Crowdfunder have become advocates for numerous different crowdfunding projects, things that are local to us, but also things that just have resonance with us as people and what we like to support. So think about everybody that's engaging with your crowdfunding campaign as being an advocate for you going forward, and how you then communicate with those people and keep them in the loop by way of things like project updates, keeping in contact with them once you actually get to deliver that project. It can be really beneficial long term. We will make sure that we provide you with the skills necessary in order to actually become a crowdfunding pro. So we have lots of resources available to you, such as today's session, in order for you to gain the skills necessary. And these are quite transferable skills as well. So things like networking, creating engaging content, utilizing social media if it's something that's not that familiar to you, adding value as well, or kind of deciding upon value of different areas of things that you might be able to offer as a reward. And actually, once you start thinking about the types of things that you do and how that might be a really lovely service for somebody, or maybe it's an exclusive option that you're only going to do for the crowdfunding campaign, it can be a really exciting way to actually take a step back, look at what you're doing and how that might be able to appeal to different people within the community as well. And of course, we have that extra funding. So we have over £10 million worth of match funding available from those regional and national partners. Each of those different match funds do come with their own criteria, their eligibility criteria. It's definitely worth having a look at the extra funding page itself on our website. They are all categorized by location. So you'll see our national funds, and then for different areas of the UK, see what's available in your area and if you might be eligible to apply. Make sure you check the terms and conditions and that eligibility criteria fully. Our amazing computer system will match you with extra funding partners once you start inputting your details into your campaign page, into your admin side of things. So you'll be able to see who you've been matched with. And if it's a good fit, always apply for extra funding. Okay, so those 3 steps to success. This is one of those slides, unfortunately, that has decided to just have a bit of a party and jump out of configuration. There might be a few of these, apologies. So that first section is planning. It's really important to put a lot of time into the planning of your crowdfunding campaign. When you go live, you want to be able to focus on being reactive whilst your campaign is live. So we always recommend putting in a good kind of, 4 to 5 weeks, a similar amount of time to you running a live campaign, into the planning stages. So you want to create a plan, make sure that you know the stages of your live campaign and what that looks like. You also want to make sure that you're mapping out your network. So we actually have a wonderful example of a network map within our education resources that we'll share with you, our Learn platform. A network map is a really key way to determine who you're going to speak to and how you're going to communicate with them. Map that out in the early stages so you know how you're going to actually bring in those donations and who they're going to come from. And beyond that, you want to be thinking about creating your campaign itself. So this is where you can get really creative and add lots of wonderful visuals and images and engaging content onto your campaign page. Tell your supporters your story. Add those all important rewards if you have the capacity to do so. You do not have to add rewards onto your campaign. It can just be something that can really boost your fundraising. And also bear in mind that depending on any match funding that you may have been accepted for, there may be a prerequisite that you do need to offer rewards on that page. So just check that, those T's and C's, as I mentioned. And then, of course, set that all important target. You are in complete control of the amount of money that you need to raise to make your idea happen. Okay, so set a realistic target. Think about the minimum that you need in order to get your idea off the ground, and you can always plan to overfund that, something we call a stretch target, which is an additional goal above and beyond your target. And then, of course, running your campaign. You want to set a really clear launch date and try and stick to that if possible. It's good to have a deadline. We find that people do work well when they're working towards a deadline. Spread the word. So you need to know how you're going to reach out to your network and make sure you're connecting with your supporters. Think about different ways for you to communicate with them. Keep it person-centric. Make sure that you're talking to people on their level and try and keep that personal contact up wherever possible. Okay, so first we're going to look at planning your project. This is an example of where you would start with your network map. You want to think about the different groups within your community and who falls within each of these groups. So when we talk about your core audience or your core crowd, really that's your friends and family, your colleagues, maybe it's a team of volunteers that you work with, people that you have personal connections with, that you have conversations with, that you can start talking about this crowdfunder, and those people will more than likely be the ones that you can rely on for those first donations. You need to have a nice solid core network before you then start thinking about approaching the wider community. Now, when we talk about things like existing suppliers, that might be suppliers because you're a business, that might be that you are using venues, it could be partners and suppliers in terms of, let's link those two together and think about collaborative organizations. Do you work with any other organizations professionally that you could utilize their network and their audience? Also think about the wider community as a whole. So that's going to be the business community. And also at this time of year, there's lots of different occasions where the community get together. You've got lots of things coming up for the festive season. There might be events that you can be present at, and also that online community as well. So using things like Facebook is really good. Quite often you'll see community groups that are on there for your town or your village, the local buy and sell groups, for example, and also groups that have been set up that have a similar project aim, or they're talking about similar things to what your project is trying to tackle. Think about contacting the admins of those groups and how you can potentially promote within those. And then of course you've got things like local schools as well, colleges, any kind of academic centre locally where they may be able to share on your behalf. And finally, press and blogs. Most towns and cities have local radio stations, local press outlets. Do have those conversations about promoting your crowdfunder with them. However, it's a really good idea to hold off having any of that promotion kind of go live until you are well over the halfway mark of actually raising the money towards your project. That's because by the time somebody gives you a shout out on the local radio or they read about it in the local newspaper, they might not have a direct connection with your project, but will come and have a look at it out of interest. And if they see that you're well on your way to reaching your target, they will know that their money will make a big difference towards you being successful. However, if you're only in the early stages, they might take a look at it and think, I'll come back to that when I know it's going to be a success. It doesn't directly affect me. I like the idea of it. However, I'm going to see how it goes. So think about timing when it comes to promoting your campaign. Okay, there are a couple of reasons as to why people pledge. First of all, there's going to be a group of people that believe in your idea. They're also going to believe in you as an individual or as an organization. They have a pre-existing connection with you and they support you 100%. So that's your family, your team members, those collaborative organizations, your friends. There are also going to be a group of people within your crowd that really like the look of those rewards that you've got on offer. And for them to claim one of those rewards is a brilliant thing for them. And actually, they feel really good knowing that their money has gone to facilitate something great happening for the community or for a local business or an individual. So the idea really is to strike a balance with your campaign page and your narrative and how you tell your story and how you promote it between those two groups of people. You're going to be bringing in those people that are going to support you because they think what you're doing is amazing or they're going to directly benefit from it. And also that group of people that want to do something good with their money and are looking for that really interesting reward for themselves. So think about promoting it with some story-centric promotion about the project, but also highlight those rewards in your promotion as well. And when you're talking to different groups of people, think about, what is it? What's that hook for this particular group of my network that's going to bring them on board? And you might need to change up your promotion and the way you talk to people about it, depending on what you think is going to resonate with them the best. Okay, Setting a target. Now, this can be something that takes a little bit of work for people. You do want to think about a target that's as realistic as possible. As I mentioned, you want to start with a minimum of the amount of money that's needed in order to make that idea happen. So try not to be too lofty with your target unless you've got a really solid plan of how you're going to back that up. You want to know where the majority of your donations are coming from. You want to, again, if you can, plan to overfund. So that stretch target that I mentioned is an additional goal above and beyond that target that you're setting for your project. Let's say you need £10,000 to really get your idea off the ground, and you'll be able to do your project delivery for the next 6 months with this £10,000. However, if you were to raise £15,000 or £20,000, that would see you being able to do project delivery for the next 12 months rather than 6. Or it might be that you're able to add on some awesome little bits and pieces to the project delivery itself in order to take it to the next level. So that additional target there of 15 or 20, that becomes your stretch target. And that's where all those bells and whistles and things that make that project really sing, that's where you're going to be overfunding. That's your stretch target. You want to lock down any of those key pledges ahead of the going live date. So talking to that core network and making sure that you've got them lined up as soon as your project goes live. You reach back out to them and say, right, now's the time. I need you to make that donation. And then when their money has been pledged onto your page, at that point, that's when you start your promotion of your campaign. If you can, you want to have a good grasp of where the first 25% of your overall target is coming from. And that's who you're going to be reaching out to in the first instance in order to generate those donations onto the page. That will give you some really great momentum going forward. An analogy that we often use is the empty restaurant or empty cafe kind of syndrome, if you like. Your supporters will view your campaign page almost as that cafe. So if you're walking down the high street and you're trying to find somewhere for lunch and you see that there's an empty cafe, nobody's in there, it looks a little bit dull, not very inviting, you walk past. However, a couple of shops down the road, you get to another cafe, really nice and vibrant. There's some people that are sat in the window enjoying a lovely lunch. It looks really inviting. You're more than likely going to go into that slightly busier, inviting cafe. Think about that as your campaign page. Nobody wants to be the first one to donate to your campaign. If I was to arrive as a supporter looking at your page and I don't have a direct link with you, I'm not one of your friends or family or your colleagues, I look at that campaign page and it's been live for a few days and nobody has donated to it, that's going to be the empty cafe. I'm probably going to not go in there today. I'm going to hang on and see if anybody else actually comes along and makes that first donation. What you want is to be the vibrant cafe. So you're going to get your friends and your family to donate in the first instance. And then after a couple of days of that happening, that's when you're going to bring in your additional supporters. Now I'm going to look at your campaign page and see that it's got money raised on there. It's got a good amount of supporters. And I feel like I'm not the first one to donate, that actually you've already got momentum and you've already got support. That makes it valid and credible in my eyes. And I'm going to donate to your campaign page too. So think about that kind of psychology of giving as well. Always make sure that you're building momentum before you then go out to a wider audience. Okay. Creating the project. This is an example of a perfect project page. This is a recent crowdfunding campaign that we absolutely loved. What you want to do when you're creating your page is make sure it's as engaging as possible. So you have the ability to add a short little video to the top of your page. We recommend it's only a minute to a minute and a half long, if possible. It just needs to say who you are, why you're crowdfunding, what you're crowdfunding for, and how people can help you achieve that. If you can do that in a really succinct manner, that's going to really help to engage your audience. You'll also have a nice concise project aim next to that one as well. That has got a word count, so you do need to be concise. Again, think about people that don't really know who you are. Make it really, really easy to digest what this project is all about and how that money raise is going to help do your project aim. If you can, include links to your social media channels so people can build upon your network, on your online network, and find out what you're doing as well outside of the crowdfunding campaign via your social media platforms. We recommend updating your crowd throughout your journey. It's really important to bring your supporters along for the journey with you. It will help them to feel more engaged and part of the process. It can really help as well to give some call to actions throughout the course of the campaign so that you can help to build your audience by your supporters actually reaching out to their networks. And it's a great thing to have to look back on once you've actually completed your campaign and maybe even throughout the project delivery. Now, when it comes to the actual telling your story part of the page, make sure you're using headers wherever possible to break up the text. Picking out any key information in bold is a really nice way to draw the reader's eye down the page. And you can always include links as well to a website, for example, that has a wealth of information about who you are and what you're doing. And we always recommend putting in images as well to make sure that you can highlight what you're doing in a really visual way. It just helps your reader to be able to take in that information. A picture can tell 1,000 words, we know that, and it's a great way to kind of personalize the page and show a bit of personality. Have that realistic target that we've talked about, and make sure if you're adding rewards that you've got a lovely choice of price points, so varying options in terms of what those rewards are, and accessible prices as well, and varying prices. Okay, so the extra funding, this is a really important part of our platform. It's a really exciting opportunity for eligible project owners. When you're setting up your page, there will be a whole section on extra funding. You need to make sure that we already know who you are, so make sure you put your postcode in when you're first setting up to let us know where you are in the country and what type of organisation or project that you are. Also, allow us to share your project details with our extra funding partners. That's just a little tick box there. And then this whole page is a tick box exercise. So you will let us know who you're going to be working with, so who's going to benefit from your project, and those potential outcomes as well. And there's lots of wonderful choices on there. Make sure you pick everything that's relevant to your project, and our computer system will match you with our extra funding partners and any potential funds that we have available to you. You will then be able to apply for that funding through your project dashboard. It can take around 10 to 15 minutes to submit an application, which I know is a lot more straightforward than any bid writing or grants that you might have experienced in the past. One thing to bear in mind is it doesn't auto save. So it's a good idea to actually look at those application forms and then create a Word document or something similar with your answers on there, and you can just copy and paste over. That will make it even more streamlined and time efficient. Now, this is one fund that we wanted to highlight to you all, which is recently launched with us. It's a really exciting fund. It's the Cost of Living Resilience Fund, and this is supporting the social sector projects in deprived areas of England that are helping their communities through the cost of living crisis. Now, projects can see themselves receive £50,000 or up to £50,000 towards their project. This particular fund is interesting as it's aiming to increase the stability of those organisations by supporting them to deliver projects which actually increase their enterprise activity. So these organisations or businesses, they need to be revenue generating, which is a really exciting opportunity. Quite often, match funds are aimed at people who are grants or donations based. This one, you do actually need to be bringing in revenue, and the idea is that the fund will help you to build upon that aspect of your organization in order to the byproduct of that is obviously that you're also helping people through the cost of living crisis in some way, but ultimately it's going to really help you as an organization build stability and resilience to carry on with the great work that you're doing, or maybe even grow with the brilliant things that you're doing as well. Okay, so just a little bit on the eligibility here. You can find the full eligibility criteria under the fund itself. on our extra funding page. But in terms of the organisations that are eligible, you must be one of the following. So a charitable incorporated organisation or a community benefit society, obviously community interest companies as well, limited by a guarantee or limited by shares. And then you've also got cooperatives, for example. So if you are a profit with purpose organisation, or used to be called not-for-profit, but we all know that we do actually make a profit in these businesses, a profit with purpose, you should be able to be eligible for this particular fund. With the organisations that are eligible, you must also bring in over 33% of your income through trading activity. We've got a really great example of a project that has been accepted for this particular fund, and we will share that one with you. It's a great community kitchen in Bristol, and they have income through paid for workshops. They do brilliant things within Bristol itself, and they also have an element of their business where they provide free community meals, and they are raising money to actually enhance their kitchen to be able to build resilience and provide more of these workshops, and of course then in turn be able to support more of the community with the free meals as well. So really great example. You must also be based in communities within England that fit within the multiple deprivation or the IMD scale of 1 to 5. There's a couple of different match fund opportunities depending on the ratio based on whereabouts you fall within that scale. So definitely worth taking a little look on that, but you will need to be within IMD 1 to 5 to actually be eligible. And of course, provide services that are supporting people through the cost of living crisis. And that doesn't have to be your main aim. It could be that that's something that you are doing in response to the cost of living crisis. However, you are a profit with purpose who has a slightly different aim overall. So think about that in terms of what you may be offering, whether that's a warm space or whether that's, transport to be able to provide food and shopping for people, or whatever that looks like for your particular organisation. In terms of the types of crowdfunding projects that you may be eligible, you can see here a few examples. These are not the only examples. This is just a little bit of a highlight to think about. So it might be that you're refurbishing a premises to be able to better serve the community and then increase your delivery capacity. You might be developing a new service or a product to bring in additional revenue, or you could be investing in current activity, but that's going to actually allow the growth and expansion of services. So I highly recommend taking a look at the eligibility criteria as a whole. And if you think that it's something that may well suit your project idea, definitely put an application in. It's a really exciting live match fund. And we'll look at what that kind of means in a sec. I think it's on our next slide, please, Charlie. Okay, so I mentioned the IMD areas. So if you sit within IMD 1 to 3, projects can receive match funding at a ratio of 3 to 1. So for example, if a supporter was to pledge £50 to your project, the cost of living resilience fund would provide 3 times that, so £150, which means a whopping £200 to your project overall. So for somebody's £50, that could generate 200 for you. That's a really exciting opportunity for you as an organisation, and also for your supporters to know that their donation's doing such a big amount for your project. If you sit within the IMD areas 4 to 5, then that rate is a 2 to 1. So if a supporter pledges £50, the cost of living resilience fund would be twice that. So they would provide £100 to your project. That is, again, a whopping £150 donation to your project. So a really, really exciting opportunity. I highly recommend that you go and take a look and see if you might be eligible for that one. This is just a brief overview of the project that I know Charlie's actually put into the chat box. So go and take a look at the page when you get a chance. There's some wonderful rewards on there, a really engaging page that really has a lot of personality behind it. You get a really, really good feel for what we would want as Crowdfunder as a great example of a project. So go and take some inspiration from that one. Okay, running the projects. Everybody can help you when it comes to a crowdfunding campaign. Of course, we want people to support you and donate money. However, there are other ways people can support you too. And you need to have these conversations with people in the lead up to going live and continue to have these conversations throughout the campaign. So when talking to people about your crowdfunder, you're going to ask if they can share your project with their networks. That's really important to help build your crowd. Offer a reward if possible, and then of course make a financial contribution. Now, not everybody is going to be able to do all three of those things. However, if you give them those three as options, the chances are they can do at least one for you. And it really does help ease that pressure of the conversation that I know a lot of people feel when they're going out and essentially asking for donations. If you're giving people options as to how they can help to support you, it does make those conversations a little bit easier, and they definitely have more kind of results, if you like, going forward. Okay, a brilliant thing that we have at the moment as well is you can actually now do loads of different things throughout your dashboard. You can see here on the My Dashboard menu just what's involved within that dashboard, and you can do a huge amount of things. One of which is that you can actually invite people to manage the project page alongside you. So it doesn't have to just be that one person who's going into the back end of the page and managing it. You can actually have more than one person. You just need to invite those people along to come and be admins for your page. We always highly recommend doing a crowdfunder collaboratively wherever possible and getting a team of people together, and then you can really utilize one another's skill sets as well. And this can be a great way to take the pressure off just one person doing all of the admin when it comes to the campaign. So I recommend doing this, especially if there's a team of you involved, and it's a good idea to have a team wherever possible. Okay, we have got a wealth of resources available for you. We have webinars such as this. We run drop-in sessions each week where you can come along and talk to a member of Crowdfunder and have your questions answered in real time. It's also a really lovely way to hear from other project owners too. So these are group drop-in sessions via Zoom. You can come along, ask any questions, hear other people's stories, and it is a drop-in, so you can pop along at any point throughout the session. We have some online learning guides as well. We have our online learning resources, and we have some brilliant guides that have been created just to help you to be able to do every stage of your crowdfunder. And our amazing knowledge hub, which you can access on the website, is full of wonderful guides and hints and tips for every single stage of your crowdfunding campaign. Things like how to nail your project video, all the way through to the importance of updating your crowd or how to write a press release. Some really key information in there that we know works really well and helps to create successful projects. Once you set up your crowdfunding account and you let us know what type of thing you're going to be crowdfunding for and the type of organization, you will start to receive tailored email advice, and that will signpost you into the right direction in order to get the most relevant information for you and your particular project. We have a really wonderful dedicated customer support team. They are absolutely incredible. They are crowdfunding gurus, and they are the ones behind things like our help center. So they have written all of the troubleshooting guides, all of the FAQs. So when you go and check out the help center with any of your questions, that would have been written by one of our customer support team. And the chances are any question you have, you will find the answer within that center. If you still struggle and you haven't quite got the right answer from there, you are, of course, welcome to contact our customer support team directly. And Charlie's put the link into the chat box for you now. And then, of course, there is that live project dashboard, and you can manage every aspect of your campaign through that dashboard. Everything from downloading relevant reports all the way through to extending your campaign and looking at your analytics. So you'll be able to see when your donations have come into the project, what it looks like you're going to raise based on the activity so far. So some really useful information in there, and it's always good to make use of that dashboard. Okay. Wonderful. Well, we powered through a lot of information there. Thank you so much for sticking with me throughout that. I know we've had some questions through as well. So let's just take a look at our chat box. Okay. Right, we've got a wonderful one here, which is really important. So what's the ideal time for a campaign? That's a really, really good question. Crowdfunding should be quite a short, kind of sharp injection of fundraising. You don't want to run a really lengthy campaign. It doesn't necessarily result in a better amount of money raised. The reason for that is when you launch a crowdfunding campaign, you will get excited about it, your community get excited about it, and you will see those donations coming in, especially when you've done a bit of the legwork in the planning and you've brought in those early donations. Now, you might find after a couple of weeks that engagement drops off and it starts to dip a little bit. And we have it as a bit of a U shape. So people get excited and then it might start to dip in terms of engagement. And then as you're about to close and you'll start doing your countdown to the deadline of your closing date, people will re-engage naturally and you'll see your donations start to creep up to be able to hit your target. Now, in those planning stages, it's a good idea to be aware of this so you can have some really great promotion to be able to put out there once you start to kind of see the engagement dip. Now, what you don't want with a long campaign is to actually increase that potential lull and that dip in the middle. It can be quite hard to keep the momentum for that stage if it's over a really lengthy amount of time. So we would suggest around 4 to 6 weeks is an ideal amount of time to crowdfund. Anything beyond that, I would say, if you're going to have a longer campaign, make sure that you've got a really solid plan of promotion in place to utilize that time. Is it because you've got some events coming up? Is there something that's happening within the community that you can kind of tap into and bring on board as a way to fundraise? When you are running your campaign, try and think about timing as well. So try and run it over a couple of paydays if you can do, or if you've got things coming up within your events calendar or within your local community and there are things that are happening in the near future that you could utilize to promote your campaign or to bring in more donations, then think about the timings of wrapping it around those as well. Okay, we've had another question about gift aid. We do have gift aid questions come up quite a lot. So if your organisation is eligible to receive gift aid, you, if you so wish, can accrue gift aid through your crowdfunding campaign. We will not determine whether you're eligible or not. That is for you to know, and you will know that as an organisation if you are eligible. And you can simply check the tick box which says, yes, I would like to receive gift aid. Now that will be applied to the donations coming through onto your page. You will also have the ability to add or accrue gift aid on your rewards that people claim. Again, that is going to be something that you need to look into in terms of what rewards might be eligible to accrue gift aid on, as I know that there are different kind of rules around gift aid as to what that can be attached to. Essentially, once you've done that little bit of research and you are happy, you can accrue gift aid and you will be able to download a gift aid report at the end of your campaign. And that will then be in the right format to actually go and claim that direct from HMRC. So it can be a really lovely way to boost some more money coming into your campaign. We don't deal necessarily with the gift aid itself. We just allow you to accrue that going forward. Okay, another question we have coming through here. Bear with me. Okay, so is the opportunity for extra funding applicable to organisations in other countries to support their local communities, or is it only for organisations in the UK alone? At the moment, the partners that we currently have on board with Crowdfunder UK are looking to support organisations within the UK. That's not to say you can't crowdfund for things that are happening outside of the UK. We see that happen a lot. We have lots of campaigns running to help support projects and support crisis in different areas of the world. However, at the moment, our match funds are looking very much at supporting UK-based project delivery. One thing I will say, which is a prerequisite for using Crowdfunder, is you do need to have a verified UK bank account. You can crowdfund for something or a project that's happening elsewhere. That's absolutely fine. You just must make sure that you have a verified UK bank account attached to your project. Okay. Another question. Can you run more than one campaign at a time? There's nothing stopping you from running more than one campaign at a time. However, we would not recommend running more than one simultaneously. There is quite a lot of work involved in running a campaign. And also, if you're running simultaneous campaigns, potentially you're diluting your crowd, because you will split your potential supporters between multiple campaigns. The best thing to be doing if you need to raise money for more than one thing is either combine them as a whole project and have different areas within that project that you can attribute different kind of financial raises for, or if something is potentially happening in stages, you can run multiple crowdfunders kind of one after the other, and that actually yields better results than trying to run them at the same time. In terms of running multiple crowdfunders, just give yourself and your supporters enough of a break in between each campaign to kind of reset, take a breath, maybe 3 to 6 months if possible, just to kind of give everyone a bit of a breather, and then you can always go back out and say thank you so much for our successful campaign. We're now going to be launching phase 2, and this is what our project looks like. This is what we need the money for this time, and you can combine kind of the narrative and the story and link those campaigns through things like updates going forward. But I wouldn't recommend trying to do it all at the same time. Okay, we have one from Malcolm here. For a personal project, I have an original oil canvas painting to offer in the form of a raffle. If my project were to be successful, would Crowdfunder UK help by organising the draw at the end of the funding period? Okay. So you actually have the ability to run prize draws on Crowdfunder UK. It can be a really exciting way to generate a lot of funds by making, a really wonderful, what would be potentially quite a pricey reward or a pricey thing accessible to lots of people via kind of low priced raffle tickets, if you like, by way of those prize draw rewards. So you can definitely run the prize draw. In terms of actually organising the draw at the end of the funding period, that would sit with you as a project owner. And I do know that there are lots of different ways that you can do that. There are lots of different kind of software tools out there, and things like number generators and all those kind of things that you can use in order to determine the winner. You will obviously have access to everybody that's decided to join in with that prize draw. You would be able to download all of their information so that you can actually generate that draw yourself. One thing that you might consider doing, which is really exciting, is to actually set a date and maybe do that draw live on a social media platform, whether it be Facebook or something like that. So you can actually then bring in an audience virtually to take part in that, and that might help to then build your kind of connectiveness and your engagement going forward as well, if you're bringing everyone together in like a virtual room where you can do the draw. So that might be an exciting thing to think about. But yes, it would be something that you would need to do through like a number or name generator after the close of your campaign. Okay, I think we have got through all of our questions for today. There were some brilliant questions there. Thank you so much. So just in terms of next steps for all of you here, I would recommend going and taking a look at the platform itself. So go to crowdfunder.co.uk and actually explore those projects. Click on the Explore tab, and as I mentioned right at the start, search for those projects via location or via those categories, or even maybe just some keywords that sit well with your project idea, and filter that through to successful. See who's managed to do it before you, the type, the amount of money that they've been raising successfully. Click through to their social media platforms and also let them know, find out how they've actually been promoting that. Check for extra funding on our extra funding page to see if you could be eligible for any of those wonderful match funds, and take part in the Crowdfunder Learn platform. So that is a really wonderful educational tool that walks you through how to do this successfully. If you're doing it in a team, and we recommend that you do, try and get other people doing that as well, so that you're all on the same page going forward. And of course, keep in touch with us. Let us know how you're getting on. Pop into a drop-in, follow us on socials, tag us in all of the promotion that you do, and you may well get a shout out from Crowdfunder UK to help boost a little bit of promotion there. Okay. Oh, we've just got a question in from Rebecca, just asking about the cost of living resilience fund for Wales. At the moment, that fund is for England. I don't know of any changes to that as yet. There are funds available within Wales, but not that specific fund at the moment. Okay, right then, I think wonderful questions. As I say, we've managed to do a lot of content within the hour, so thank you so much to everybody for tuning in today. Hopefully you've had some food for thought, and we do look forward to seeing you sign up to that Crowdfunder platform, coming along to our drop-ins, and making sure that we are obviously here to support you for your successful campaigns, and we wish you all the best of luck. Thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.